Have you ever noticed that the teenagers who seem to have it all together are often the ones silently drowning? The straight A student who can't celebrate their 98% because it's not 100%. The athlete who makes the winning shot but immediately thinks about the three they missed. The artist whose work everyone praises, but all they see are the imperfections. There's something strange happening in the minds of countless teenagers right now. They're achieving things their parents only dreamed of. They're more accomplished, more aware, more connected than any generation before them. And yet, they're more convinced than ever that they're not good enough. Here's the paradox. The more they achieve, the more inadequate they feel. Success doesn't build confidence. It raises the bar. Every accomplishment becomes evidence not of their capability, but of how much further they still have to climb. So what's really happening in the psychology of a teen who never feels good enough? And why does trying harder only make it worse? Let's start with something most people don't understand about the teenage brain. It's essentially learning to see itself for the first time. You know how, when you look in a mirror, you instantly recognize yourself? That recognition feels automatic, natural. But for teenagers, the psychological mirror, the one that reflects who they are, what they're worth, what they're capable of, is just beginning to form. And here's the problem. That mirror isn't reflecting reality. It's reflecting distortion. Developmental psychology tells us that adolescence is when the prefrontal cortex undergoes massive reconstruction. This is the part of your brain responsible for self-evaluation, for forming an identity, for answering the question, who am I? But while this neural remodeling happens, teenagers become hypersensitive to social feedback. Their brains are literally wired to care intensely about how others perceive them. Dr. Lawrence Steinberg's research at Temple University shows that during adolescence, the brain's reward centers light up more intensely in response to social acceptance and dim more dramatically in response to rejection than at any other time in life. You're not being dramatic when you feel like others' opinions matter so intensely. Your brain is designed to make them matter. But here's where it gets complex. When you're constantly evaluating yourself through others' eyes, you never develop an internal sense of your own worth. You become like a chameleon, changing colors based on your environment, never quite sure what your true color is. Let's talk about something that confuses a lot of parents and teachers. Why do high-achieving teens often feel the most inadequate? You'd think success would build confidence, right? That getting good grades, winning awards, making the team, or getting into that prestigious program would finally make you feel capable, worthy enough. But here's the truth. For teens trapped in never good enough thinking, achievement doesn't satisfy. It suffocates. Here's what's really happening psychologically. When your sense of worth is tied to performance, every success raises the stakes. It's not, I did well, therefore I am capable. It's, I did well, therefore I must continue doing well, or everyone will realize I'm a fraud. Psychologists call this contingent self-worth, when your value as a person feels dependent on meeting certain standards. And research by Dr. Jennifer Crocker at Ohio State University shows that contingent self-worth leads to a devastating cycle. Achievement brings temporary relief from anxiety, but that relief is immediately replaced by pressure to maintain or exceed that level of performance. you're not building a foundation of confidence. You're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. Think about it this way. Imagine you're balancing on a tightrope. Every achievement is a step forward, but the rope never ends. The ground below never gets closer, and the height only increases. You can't celebrate where you are because you're too focused on not falling. The achievement isn't the destination. It's just proof that you haven't failed yet. And this is where it gets really interesting. The teenage brain is particularly vulnerable to this trap because of something called temporal discounting. This is the tendency to value immediate feedback over long-term outcomes. That A on your paper? The praise feels good for maybe an hour. But the anxiety about the next test starts immediately. The immediate fear outweighs the past success every single time. But here's what's fascinating about the never good enough mindset. It's not really about you at all. Let me explain. When you feel inadequate, you probably think it's because you're objectively falling short of some standard. You're not smart enough, not athletic enough, not attractive enough, not talented enough. You look at your life and see evidence of your shortcomings everywhere. But the psychology behind this runs deeper than self-assessment. It's rooted in something called social comparison theory. Now let's talk about perfectionism, because this is where the never good enough mindset becomes truly dangerous. Most people think perfectionism is about having high standards. Parents often see it as a positive trait. She's just a perfectionist. She wants to do her best. Teachers might even praise it. If only more students cared about quality like you do. But clinical perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's about fear. Dr. Thomas Greenspon, who's spent decades researching perfectionism, defines it this way. Perfectionism is a desperate attempt to avoid the unbearable feeling of shame and inadequacy. Read that again. Perfectionism isn't about achieving something perfect. It's about avoiding feeling imperfect. Here's what's really happening in the mind of a perfectionist teenager. Every task becomes a referendum on your worth as a person. That essay isn't just an assignment. It's proof of whether you're intelligent. That game isn't just a competition. It's evidence of whether you're valuable to the team. That social interaction isn't just a conversation. It's confirmation of whether you're likable. When the stakes are that high, nothing you do will ever feel good enough because you're not really evaluating your work. You're evaluating yourself. And this creates a particularly cruel trap. Perfectionism makes you procrastinate because starting something means risking it not being perfect, which means risking that crushing feeling of inadequacy. But procrastination creates anxiety, which makes you perform worse, which confirms your fears that you're not good enough, which intensifies the perfectionism. It's a prison where the bars are made of your own standards, and the key doesn't exist because perfect is always just out of reach. But here's what most teenagers, and honestly, most parents don't realize. That voice telling you you're not good enough didn't originate with you. Let me take you deeper into the psychology. That critical inner voice, the one that never seems satisfied, the one that finds the flaw in every achievement, the one that whispers not enough after every effort. That voice was learned. It came from somewhere. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and expanded by researchers like Mary Ainsworth, shows us that children form their sense of self-worth through early relationships with caregivers. If love and approval felt conditional, based on behavior, achievement, or being a certain way, the child internalizes the message that their worth is conditional. This doesn't mean your parents are bad people or intentionally harmed you. Many parents who struggle with their own sense of adequacy unconsciously pass those patterns down. The mother who constantly criticizes her own appearance teaches her daughter that appearance determines worth. The father who only praises achievement teaches his son that love is earned through performance. Sometimes it's more subtle than that. Maybe your parents' love was consistent, but they were anxious, overprotective. Their anxiety communicated, the world is dangerous, and you're not quite capable of handling it on your own. And you internalized, I'm not enough. Or maybe it wasn't your parents at all. Maybe it was that teacher who humiliated you in front of the class, that coach who played favorites, those peers who excluded you, that relationship where you felt like you had to constantly prove your worth. Here's the truth. Somewhere along the way, you learned that you had to earn your place, your value, your right to take up space. And once that lesson is learned, it's hard to unlearn. Your brain starts scanning for evidence to confirm it. You notice every criticism, every rejection, every moment where you fell short. You discount every compliment, every success, every moment where you were more than enough. Psychologists call this confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out and remember information that confirms what we already believe. If you believe you're not good enough, your brain becomes a detective gathering evidence to prove it. And this is where it gets really heavy. So stay with me. Living with the never good enough mindset isn't just emotionally painful. It's existentially exhausting. Think about what it takes to get through a single day when you feel inadequate. You wake up, and before your eyes are fully open, the anxiety is there. What do I have to do today? What if I fail? What will people think? Getting dressed becomes a referendum on your appearance. Breakfast becomes a negotiation with guilt. Walking into school or work feels like walking on stage where everyone is judging your performance. Every interaction is filtered through the question, did I say the right thing? Did I sound stupid? Do they think less of me now? Every task carries invisible weight. This needs to be perfect. This needs to prove I'm capable. This needs to make up for all the ways I'm lacking. And at the end of the day, even when you've accomplished everything on your list, even when objectively nothing went wrong, you lie in bed reviewing every moment, finding the flaws, replaying the awkward conversation, obsessing over the mistake, planning how to do better tomorrow. This is what psychologists call chronic self-monitoring, and the research is clear. It's associated with depression, anxiety, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. You're not just living your life. You're constantly evaluating your life, judging your life, trying to fix your life. There's no moment of just being, just existing, just resting in the simple fact of your own humanity. Dr. Kristen Neff's research on self-compassion shows that this constant self-evaluation activates the threat defense system in your brain. Your body literally interprets your own inner critic as a threat, flooding you with stress hormones, keeping you in a perpetual state of fight or flight. You're at war with yourself. And in that war, there are no winners. But here's what's fascinating, and maybe even hopeful. The very fact that you never feel good enough reveals something profound about you. Let me explain this paradox. The teenagers who genuinely aren't trying, who genuinely don't care, who are truly coasting through life without reflection or growth, they're not the ones agonizing over whether they're good enough. They're not the ones reading articles or watching videos, trying to understand themselves. They're not the ones lying awake at night, worried about their impact on others, or their potential, or their worth. The fact that you care so deeply about being enough, about doing well, about becoming better, that itself is evidence of something meaningful inside you. The anxiety about not being good enough often coexists with a genuine desire to grow, to contribute, to matter. Here's the truth. You're not inadequate. You're unfinished. And there's a crucial difference. Inadequate means fundamentally lacking, broken, less than. Unfinished means in process, developing, becoming. Every teenager is unfinished. Every human is unfinished. We're all works in progress, constantly learning, growing, changing, evolving. The mistake is judging your unfinished self against some imaginary finished standard. It's like criticizing a painting when it's only half done, or judging a book when you've only written 3 chapters. And this is where it gets really interesting psychologically. Dr. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset shows that when people view their abilities as fixed, I'm either smart or I'm not, talented or I'm not, good enough or I'm not, they become fragile. Every failure feels like evidence of fundamental inadequacy. But when people view their abilities as developable, I'm learning, growing, improving, they become resilient. Failure becomes feedback, not identity. The never good enough mindset is rooted in a fixed mindset about the self. You're evaluating your worthiness as if it's a permanent trait, when in reality, you're a dynamic, changing, evolving person. You're not a finished product being inspected for defects. You're a human being in the process of becoming. So what do you do with all of this? How do you escape the prison of never feeling good enough? Here's what won't work. Trying harder to be perfect. Achieving more to finally feel adequate. Suppressing the critical voice through force of will. These strategies just tighten the grip of the very mindset you're trying to escape. The way out isn't through achievement. It's through acceptance. And I don't mean acceptance as in resignation. I guess I'll just accept that I'm not good enough. I mean acceptance as in acknowledging reality. You are a human being with inherent worth, independent of what you do or achieve or how others perceive you. This is the foundation of self-compassion. And Dr. Kristen Neff's research shows it's more powerful than self-esteem. Self-esteem says, I'm better than others. Therefore, I'm valuable. Self-compassion says, I'm human. Therefore, I'm valuable. Here's what this looks like practically. When that voice says, you're not good enough, instead of fighting it or believing it, you pause. You acknowledge it. There's that thought again. And then you respond with compassion. I'm doing my best. I'm learning. I'm human, and humans struggle. When you make a mistake, instead of spiraling into self-criticism, you ask, what would I say to a friend in this situation? And then you say that to yourself. When you look at others and feel inadequate, you remind yourself, I'm seeing their outside, comparing it to my inside. Everyone struggles. Everyone doubts. Everyone is just trying to figure it out. This isn't about lowering your standards or giving up on growth. It's about uncoupling your worth from your performance. It's about recognizing that you can want to improve without believing you're fundamentally flawed. But here's the thing about self-compassion and changing deeply held beliefs. Knowing it intellectually doesn't change how you feel. This requires practice. Your brain has spent years, maybe your entire conscious life, running the not good enough program. You can't just decide to stop and expect it to work. You have to retrain your brain, slowly, gently, repeatedly. Think of it like learning a new language. At first it feels forced, unnatural. You have to consciously translate every thought. But with practice, it becomes more automatic, more natural, more real. Here are practices that the research shows actually work. First, notice without judgment. Throughout your day, just notice when the not good enough thought arises. Don't fight it, don't believe it, just observe it. There it is again. This creates distance between you and the thought. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that notices thoughts. Second, question the evidence. When your brain says you're not good enough, ask, what does good enough even mean? Good enough for what? According to whom? Often you'll realize you're chasing a standard that's either impossible, undefined, or not even yours. Third, practice specific self-compassion. Instead of vague affirmations like, I'm great, acknowledge specific struggles. This essay is really hard for me, and that's okay. Most people find this challenging. I'm learning. Specificity makes it believable. Fourth, celebrate process over outcome. At the end of each day, instead of judging whether you succeeded or failed, notice, what did I try? What did I learn? Where did I show up? This rewires your brain to value effort and growth, not just results. And finally, connection. Talk to someone, a friend, a counselor, a trusted adult. Shame thrives in isolation. The not good enough feeling grows strongest when you keep it hidden. But when you share it, when someone responds with understanding and compassion, the grip loosens. So let me tell you something directly, something I need you to really hear. You are enough, not because of what you achieve, not because of how others see you, not because you finally reached some arbitrary standard of success or perfection. You are enough because you exist. Your worth isn't something you earn. It's not a grade you receive or a competition you win. It's inherent in your humanity. You were born with it. Every person is. The system that made you believe otherwise, whether it was school, family, social media, or culture, that system is flawed, not you. The voice that tells you you're not good enough is lying. It's a learned voice, echoing messages you internalized when you were too young to question them. It's not truth. It's trauma, or anxiety, or fear, masquerading as motivation. Here's what's actually true. You're trying. In a world that's harder to navigate than it's ever been, with pressures previous generations never faced, with access to everyone else's curated perfection in your pocket 24/7, you're still trying. You're still showing up. You're still pushing forward. That's not inadequacy. That's courage. And maybe the real question isn't, am I good enough? Maybe the real question is, good enough for what? For whom? Good enough to be loved? You already are. Good enough to belong? You already do. Good enough to take up space, to have needs, to make mistakes, to be imperfect and still valuable? Yes, absolutely yes. Remember that paradox we started with? The teenagers who seem to have it all together, silently drowning in inadequacy? Here's what I've learned. The ones who eventually break free aren't the ones who finally achieve enough to feel adequate. They're the ones who realize adequacy was never the point. Life isn't about measuring up to some external standard. It's about becoming yourself, messy, imperfect, still figuring it out yourself. The greatest gift you can give yourself isn't another achievement, another validation, another proof of your worth. It's the radical acceptance that you were always worthy, even when you couldn't see it, even when no one told you, even when every voice around you said the opposite. You are enough. You have always been enough. And the moment you believe that, truly believe it, deep in your bones, everything changes. Not because you finally became someone different, but because you finally recognized who you always were.